Hello, everyone. My name is Shamira McLean, and I am the Director of Youth Services at Action for a Better Community. I'm so excited to be leading this year's youth panel as the moderator. We all remember when we were younger and the adults would be having a conversation about some hot topic, and they would kick us out and tell us that the grown folks were talking. However, we can't keep doing that. And at ABC, we decided to pull up some chairs and allow the youth to have a seat at our table because their voices are the ones who can make a change in our future. The topic of this year's youth panel is From Challenges to Change, Youth Solutions for a Better Rochester. As we all know, the name of this year's overall conference is Empowering Communities and Inspiring Change. And who better to inspire and empower than our youth? I am joined here today by some amazing youth who have already begun making a difference and are true leaders in our community. So let's kick things off with some introductions. We will start with YVOV. Trevor, can you introduce yourself and tell us how you got started with making an impact in our community?
Yes, I can. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Miss is it Shamaria or
It's Shamira.
Shamara? Okay, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
No, you're fine.
Um, as she mentioned, my name is Trevor Wiggins. I'm the Vice President of YVOV, which stands for Youth Voice One Vision. Um, I'm actually in my second year of the program. It's not the first program I actually took up. The first program I was put into on my road of youth leadership was the Talented 10th program under Pearl Resources Inc., under Dr. Rita Gaither. And what that program is, if you take 10% of the African American youth population and expose them to opportunities of success, they'll return to their communities and enrich them. Um, I've also been a part of the Rochester Education Foundation as a student chair and helping other people prepare for college and filling out their FAFSA. And though I was not able to help them with that part because at the time I was underage. And finally, I serve as a youth ambassador for the Rochester Works program with Miss Delia Smith and Theodore Jordan that gives the youth opportunity to um, go forth and receive jobs and work-based learning and whatnot so they can engage in their communities and have opportunities to learn and practice things that will inspire them to take up careers.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Trevor. You definitely are doing a lot of amazing things in our community. Next up, we're going to hear from Hazel. Hazel, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you interested in making a difference in our community.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Hazel Roberts. I'm currently a senior at Joseph C. Wilson Magnet High School, and I wear many hats within the community. I can say I got my start being pushed into leadership as well as a sophomore, joining the RCSD Student Leadership Congress, where I now currently sit as the president and board rep. Um, Sorry, I'm at school, so there's anyways. I can say by a teacher seeing something in me allowed me to see that I am capable and I bring so much to the table and that my voice is valuable, which then allowed me to pursue other ventures, as in being a panelist on other communities, being the first ever RCSD person to ever serve as the state rep on the student athlete piece of things.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. And that's really where I got my start. I love empowering my peers. I love being the voice that you can't strike down. Like, I'm going to talk regardless because I love to talk and I love being that driving force.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hazel. And now we're also going to pass it over to Isaiah. Tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the work you're doing.
Hello, everybody. And I want to start off before I introduce myself, giving a big round of applause. And in the chat, if you can do it for these two students who are still in high school and who are advocating hard for our generation. And I sit on the Board of Education, and I'm able to see the work from Hazel Roberts. And I've had many conversations with Trevor. And so it's great to see them on here. But my name is Isaiah Santiago. I am 20 years old. I started my work in my advocacy at 15 years old, creating an organization to combat youth gun violence, working with young people at risk of violence, whether that's perpetrating or being affected by it. And through that program, I was able to partner with the city of Rochester at 16 years old to start that program at the David Gant Center. 17 years old, I started an initiative to advocate for a mental health literacy course for the RCSD. Around that time, I believe I was in my sophomore year, maybe junior year. 18 years old, I made my announcement that I was running for the Rochester Board of Education. At 19 years old, I made history as the youngest elected official in the history of Rochester. Now I sit on the Board of Education as a Commissioner of Education, where I'm able to advocate for my generation and advocate for change because we have a generation to succeed. And if we don't do that, what work have we been able to accomplish? If we can't leave this world and the next generations in a place where they can be successful, whether that's through education, whether that's through advocacy, whether that's through standing up what's right for them. And so that's me. Thank you for the invite, and thank you to ABC for running this event.
Thank you so much, Isaiah. We also have here with us Serenity. Serenity, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the amazing work you've been doing.
Hi, I'm Serenity. I'm a senior at Without Wall. I'm a part of YVOV, but I started off with an MYA, which brought it helped me realize like the voice that I had and how I could use that to inspire other kids my age to do big things. Because being a part of the African like community, we don't always think that we could do bigger things, and it's good to be like a part of the faces to help. With MIA, we've done multiple like events with helping like build our voices and stuff like that. I haven't done too much within my community, but I am looking forward to gaining that experience later in my career.
Absolutely. All of the amazing work you've done at YVOV truly is amazing work in the community. Now I want to pass it over to Cameron. I believe it, am I pronouncing it right? Or do you like to go by Cash?
I like to go by Cash. That's my last name, but my name is actually Carmen.
Carmen. All right, so I'm going to call you Cash for the rest of this. So Cash, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the amazing work that you've been doing?
Okay, so a little bit about myself. I recently just graduated Franklin High School, class of 2024. I joined TE right after I graduated in the summer. I joined a project called Reconnections. I was one of the first ever. I feel like that was my first kind of like hands-on activities in the actual community. It helped me to become a little bit more outspoken, helped me to grow and learn in my community with peers my age. And they inspired me to like want to continue to actually want to see more people my age like do better and have success and learn and grow. So I don't know.
Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for sharing. It's great to hear all of the amazing work that you are doing in our community and your commitments. So when we began working on this panel, we wanted to make sure that the topics and items that we discussed really resonated with our youth. We didn't want to just sit around and have the adults come up with topics for us to talk about. So instead, we reached out to different community groups in the area and had the youth complete a survey. So students as young as 8 all the way up to 24 completed this survey. There was one particular question that stuck out to us, and it wound up shaping this whole entire panel. That question was, what are 3 issues in Rochester that are having an impact on our youth? So I want to pose that question to all of you. I want to start out with some of our youth from YVOV because you have had the opportunity to engage with peers throughout the city. So Serenity, can you tell us what you believe your top 3 issues are that are having an impact on the youth?
I would say poverty. I feel like growing up as like a kid in poverty, it's been kind of hard to see myself doing bigger things and like not thinking that like not being able to afford that I wouldn't be able to accomplish like all these bigger goals that other people do. So I feel like poverty is definitely something that affects our kids, and it sometimes make them like do things that will help like get out of poverty, but they're not always good. So it leads to jail time, stuff like that. And something else, my second one would be not having like enough programs to help kids like with poverty and problems that they might have, that not knowing like how to like help and like fix. I can't think of a third one off my
That's
head.
fine. That's fine. Trevor, would you like to weigh in on what you believe some of the issues that are having an impact on our youth population are?
Absolutely, yes. Going off of what Serenity said, which you put very well, mind you, poverty it's not just affecting the youth, but every aspect of Rochester citizens. The high cost of living can definitely trickle down to generations, and when it gets to the youth, when it comes down to the youth having opportunities or needing to do things, the lack of affordability in programs or substantial amounts of income that's going into their houses or whatever they may do is a big factor. But I also would like to say that another issue is that comes with that is uh I believe it because everything starts at home. So what home circumstances, whether that be issues with parents or homelessness or whatnot, those are extreme factors in one of the issues that affect the youth in Rochester. And then the consensus that you can see is that when people don't have like substantial role models, they can often go down paths that others who were raised up knowing that there's somebody for them, or that they had to make their own way. um they look at these other youth that are troubled, and they're like, why didn't they choose a better path? Why did they have to choose either gun violence or joining a gang or committing a crime? And it's because of the lack of role models and people to show that that they're there for them, they're willing to support them.
Thank you, Trevor. Isaiah, I want to add you in on this as well, because I know as the commissioner, you have a unique perspective. People are probably mentioning and bringing some of the different issues to you. Can you tag in on this for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are many, issues and many factors that is attached to the situation that we have in Rochester and our young people. But just to name three, I would say lack of quality education for our young people will be at number one. The truth is that sometimes in our education system, we are not giving young people the opportunity to truly observe and point out their gifts, and their talents and their critical thinking skills. If anything, many times in our education system, it's the opposite. And I graduated from the district 2 years ago, and I have experience in this. And so I'll say lack of quality education for our young people is a big issue, because it is a key and it is an opportunity for our young people to get from place A to place B. And it's also an opportunity in which we can create a pipeline of success, and not just of success for this generation, but generational success, because this generation will one day become parents. And to be able to have the opportunity to graduate and come from an education place where you are fully educated and fully literate and fully ready to sit in these spaces, I believe is part of the answer and part of the issue. I will also agree with Trevor on lack of community. I believe many times, although we may have leaders who believe that young people should be supported and they should be heard, I think many times it's heard as long as you're not challenging me. And a lot of times you have people in these spaces who's like, I want to hear young people, I want to hear young people, or young people need to take a different role or a different route. And when they take that different route and they're possibly challenging to the person in power or the person who may have said they supported them beforehand, a lot of times that young person is doused with doused from the fire that they have of passion and of advocacy and of understanding their generation. And lastly, I would say many times lack of opportunity, and lack of opportunity includes exactly what Trevor said, the mentorship. It includes a lack of opportunity for mental health services, for support, lack of opportunity for these young people to really pursue their gifts and their talents. I was speaking to a young lady who boxed and she's from Rochester, but she boxed in the Olympics. And she was telling me how when she was in school here in Rochester, she was getting into a lot of fights. And a lot of times she was suspended and kicked out of the school and things like that. But when she moved down south and the school saw that she was fighting a lot, they got her into boxing. That was the opportunity that they got her into. And I think a lot of times we look at these young people and we're like, they're doing bad things, but we don't see the possibility of greatness that every young person in the city has. Because young people in this city is resilient and they have the gifts and they have the talents. They just need the opportunity from our older generation to support that. And so I'll lay it there. That's why I'll stop.
Thank you for that, Isaiah. Just going off of what you just said, what would you like adults to understand about the experience and insights of young people?
I will let Hazel answer this if Hazel would like to.
I'll gladly take this one. To echo what you're saying, I agree with it 100%. As I did have the teacher who saw something in me, and when I wanted to be an early graduate, to just go about my life and do my good girl job, my big girl job. But by having just one adult have blossomed to something that I am right now, it's definitely something we don't see a lot within our district, I can say, and not just from a district standpoint, but like youth as a whole within our communities, whether it's the suburbs or in urban. Um, how can I say this? The older generation doesn't like to be wrong, or they don't like to be, as you said, challenged or hear alternatives that can offer positive solutions within our whole community as a whole, because at the end of the day, Monroe County is composed of different areas. I feel like being a part of the Monroe Youth Senate too, seeing the different perspectives, is that the youth have so many ideas that they're scared to speak up, that they're soft-spoken, they don't have public speaking skills, that they're afraid. They're afraid to be shut down, even though they're more than capable of achieving greatness.
Cash, I want to add you into this conversation because I know you used to be involved with teen empowerment, and now you are actually working there. So now you've had a little bit of a shift. So with that shift, how have you been able to use your voice to make change at teen empowerment and in the community?
Um, with that shift, I feel like my change, it started off small and it's still small, but I feel like it will be a snowball effect because everything starts off small. So, when I first started, I was more quiet on the shy side. I feel like teen empowerment helped me open up and express a little more, to help express my ideas and also help my coworkers slash like their friends, more family now. Also to like help us come together, like what community is supposed to be about. It helped us and showed us that although we went to different schools, it's different age range, different rates, all of that. Um, I was gonna answer the first original question, but I forgot it, and I actually wrote a note for it. Can you ask that first question?
Yeah, the one about what are 3 issues in Rochester that are affecting our youth?
Um, Okay, so for me, I personally feel three big mainstream issues in Rochester are lack of teaching about mental health, because everyone's mental health is very important. And if our youth, my friends, family, people around our age don't know proper mental health information, um, I feel like it's really, again, the snowball effect. So it starts off with just a little problem, it gets worse, they don't talk about it, they maybe don't get the correct help, and then it leads into like other things like peer pressure in school. And then next thing you know, they're suspended, they're fighting, and they're going down a really bad path. And I feel like it starts with mental health, especially because some of the older generations, they don't have proper knowledge about mental health. So they're just passing it down through generations and generations. Um, that also goes into lack of education. Um, Being in the school like district, I don't know really how to explain it, but um, the bar is set really low. We're not taught everything that we should, especially that would actually prepare us for the real world. We're not taught those um key things that we need in life. And then lack of role models, I definitely say, because yes, there are lack of opportunities and lack of like basics basic spaces in the community where young people could go, but it's also lack of role models. We don't have no one to show us, hey, we can actually do this. It's okay if you came from poverty, you can do it too. We have that lack. And then the ones who are role models, they got there doing, whatsoever illegal ways and stuff.
Thank you so much, Cash. I'm going to circle back to one of your points that you made about mental health, but I want to take a second to introduce Lacey. She just hopped on. We were having a little bit of technical issues. Lacey, could you introduce yourself for us and tell us a little bit about your work in the community?
Hi, I'm Lacey Jones. I'm a current senior at Rochester Prep High School. I am YVOV's current president, and I personally got started a year ago, a year or two ago now. This will be my second year with YVOV, and I got started during the Rock Holiday Village, and soon after that, I just continued on growing with the community, doing more things like such with Nazareth, talking about indoor bill of rights and getting more things pushed relating to mental health. Also, with our new committee with the mental health board and more rules for kids so that they feel comfortable within their spaces and communities as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So going back to the question that we posed, when we went over the survey results, you guys hit the nail on the head. The number one topic that our youth kept bringing up over and over was mental health. We had them rank the different options on a scale, and 63% of the people who completed this survey ranked number one as their area for concern. So I want to ask you the question, why do you believe mental health is having such an impact on the youth right now? And let's start off with Trevor, because I know when we first started talking about this, I saw you nodding your head.
Yeah, so why I strongly believe mental health is a very what's the I think use a lot of big words in my head, so I like to overcomplicate my words. It helps increase my vocabulary, but to put it simply, why mental health is so important, it's because a lot of realistically, knowledge is power, and your knowledge and the reason why I say that is when you use your brain for a lot of the things, that's your central part of your entire body. People say that your heart is important. The only organ I believe is that is more important is your brain, because I mean they've done studies that stress, a lot of sicknesses and diseases are caused by stress. There's a lot of mental disorders that spawn off from stress or depression or not being in the right state of mind. And when youth are not in the right state of mind, especially, they it causes them to not only act differently, but they can make rash decisions. And when Cash brought it up, mental health, I mean it clicked with me, especially because I mean, drugs usage and alcohol and alcoholism and all these other factors that are spawning and being more prominent within the youth are affecting how they think, affecting how they feel. Another thing that can affect their mental health too is what they see on social media. And you see a lot of I mean, even like the little kids, I'm starting to see that they're having phones and they're on media and they're doing like trends and stuff. And I'm like, that's not a that's going to affect their mental health mentally, and that's going to make them view different topics differently from where they should be at. And when you're especially, I'll say this and then I'll pass it on to someone else. I don't mean to take up too much time, but growing up, I didn't really have a childhood because I had a racist encounter when I was just 5 in Henrietta at a Target, and the lady actually called me the N-word with a hard ER, and my mom had to explain to me at a very young age how this world was to be treated. But even then, even though that was a negative experience that changed my mentality and my mental health for the positive, so now I can recognize these things and move forward in a positive light. But had that been somebody else, they might go down a different road, a different path, because I mean that was a stressful situation that causes your brain to be shocked and um process.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Trevor. Isaiah, I know you're a dedicated advocate for youth mental health. So can you also weigh in on why the mental health of our youth is so important?
Yeah, and certainly in Rochester, there's a lot of young people who go through experiences that may be traumatic for them. And I think many times what happens and what we see in the city of Rochester, certainly when it involves young people and different things that they may be venturing out to that may not be for the positive of this community, is that a lot of times these are hurt young people that has potential that we have to be able to tap into. Um, and I was actually earlier this morning meeting with some principals from the district, and one thing I made sure to share to them is that I wasn't always the best student. Middle school, I was suspended. You know, elementary school, there was a lot of that going on. And my past principals will tell you. But I had to come to a point where I realized that I was a hurt young person who was going through some things around that time. And I didn't know how to express my hurt or to deal with my hurt, either than to do things that may temporarily satisfy it. I think a lot of times what we see with young people is that there's actions that temporarily satisfy their hurt, whether that's drugs, whether that's fighting, whether that's getting into stealing cars, whatever that is temporarily satisfying it, but not giving our young people the opportunity to long term support themselves and understand how to experience this hurt and how to deal with the trauma that we experience and understand that we are a people that have always triumphed past the trauma that we experience in our lives. Um, and I think that comes with educating our young people that yes, we experience things that hurt. Yes, we experience things that's traumatic, but the way that we deal with that and the way that we handle that is where we will find ourselves. And a lot of times I speak to young people as I'm traveling around New York State, speaking to different schools and middle schools and high schools. I tell them that we have to be able to come to a point where we are able to deconstruct tolerance, the tolerance of what statistics say about us, the tolerance of what family members say about us, the tolerance of what social media says about us. And we have to reconstruct an understanding on who we are. And we're not the trauma. We're not the hurt. We're not the statistic. We're not the name that our family members called us. We are young people that are able to make history. And I had to come to a point, we are young people that are able to shake the ground and make changes for our generations. And I had to come to a point where I had to understand that, yes, I'm hurt at this moment. And even though I was getting suspended around that time, I was always advocating. When I was being suspended, I was advocating. It was a way that I was advocating that may not be tasteful to everybody, but I was advocating. And so yes, I may be hurt at the moment. Yes, I may be dealing with this trauma, but I have to come to a point to understand that there are the traumas that I experience and that I face, I can triumph over, but not only triumph over, but the Bible says, and I don't mean to be preaching, I'm not trying to preach, but it says that all things work together for our good. And I just believe that. And I just believe that every trauma, that includes the trauma that I've experienced, the hurt that I've experienced, that all of this can come together and work for my good. And I've been able to make and advocate off of my story, off of the things that were meant to kill me, the things that could have took me in a whole nother direction. It has allowed me to build an advocacy behind the hurt and the experience and the pain that I've experienced and turn it around to help my generation and other young people around my generation. And so we have to be able to educate young people that there are possibilities for us to experience the things that we experience. And that comes with knowledge, like Trevor was saying, that we have to be able to have the knowledge and tell our young people the knowledge in which how do we process the hurt? How do we understand our mental health? How do we understand our emotions? And how do we find ways to make us better instead of worse?
Thank you so much for sharing that, Isaiah. I think it's really important that we take the time to really value the experiences that our young people are facing because they truly are the solution for today and tomorrow. Hazel, I want to have you jump in here and really talk about how there can be more constructive dialogue between youth and adults because, like so many of you mentioned, the adults in our lives, they need to be role models. They need to assist us. They need to be willing to give that support. So how can there be more constructive dialogue between the youth and adults?
going back to what someone said earlier in the panel, that our youth are resilient.
Mhm.
Yes, that's a good point that we like to point out, but we're tired. We're tired of being resilient all the time. We're kids. We want to have a good childhood. We want to be able to have fun in a safe environment. We want to enjoy all our adolescence before we have to step into the real world. So being resilient, it's tough. It's tiring. And I feel like the older generation, the mentors, they need to be consistent. People are always saying that, oh, if you need me, call me. If you need me, reach out to me, all this, that, and the third. But when the time comes, they're not available, or you have to schedule a meeting with the secretary, or they just stepped out and they never reach back to you. And after a while, once you're constantly being what it felt like overlooked or not underappreciated, you start reaching for help, which goes back to the mental health aspect of things. It goes back to what Cash said about in the district, there's a low bar set for us. It's like, if nobody wants to see us, how can we gain attention? Because at the end of the day, it's all about seeking attention and validation. Everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants to be heard. Everybody just wants to feel loved.
Mhm.
Something I heard at a previous panel, it was about love us. You got to love the youth. We need it. It's as everybody has been saying about poverty, violence, gangs. Just love us, because at the end of the day, the more love that's poured into us, the more we can pour it back into everybody around us, our environments, our communities, and make it a more positive and safer place and happier place to be. Because there's so much rich history here in Rochester alone.
Absolutely. When I first started getting into youth work, one of the things that was constantly said to me was that when a young person has just one caring adult in their life, it can change their overall perspective and outlook. Serenity, can you talk to us a little bit about a kind adult or a caring adult who had an impact on your life so far?
Um, I can't really. I know I had a few like growing up, but the one
Mhm.
recently that I really like could really think of is my hillside advisor. Her name's Courtney. She's been like there. She came in new like my junior year, towards the beginning of my junior year as my advisor. I had one before, and she like with the one before, her name was Chris. She always made sure I was on top of all my work. If I had something going on, she'd make sure like that became like the first priority to fix before anything. And then she ended up leaving, so I like kind of took a toll on me. But then when Courtney came in, she helped on a whole new level. And when she came in, it really, I don't know how to put it. She really she inspires me to be better. And so when towards the beginning of this year, I had a tough time with coming back into school. And well, no, beginning of last year, I had a tough time coming back into school. I had a recent death in my friend group and all of that, and she helped make sure I prioritize my mental health before I prioritize like getting my schoolwork done, which obviously but she also helped with. So it was nice to have like a adult role model to helped me learn how to balance my stuff that I had going on at home with going into school in a stressful environment. That's,
Thank you, Serenity. Lacey, I want to have you jump in on into this conversation as well. When you're navigating life and experiencing issues, how do you feel adults are able to help you and support you better?
Um, I feel adults would be able to help support a lot of young people better by just like, as somebody said before, consistency. Because when kids, the younger they are, the more impressionable and the more they need that person growing up, especially in Rochester, where we know like kids come from a lot of trauma. There's a lot of generational trauma. They know that they don't have those people in their family who may be the best advocates for mental health, or they're more tough love than actual nurturing love and support. So for other adults, it's just better when you show them I am a listening ear, because a lot of times, it's not that kids don't know what they need to get done. It's not that they don't know what they have to do. It's just they need somebody who's willing to listen to them on a level that's more than just intelligent. They need somebody who's willing to listen to them emotionally, even if it isn't always just positive emotions. You have to listen to the good and the bad. That's Nobody's just one-sided. So to have adults who are willing to accept you at your best, at your worst, or even at your most, I don't know. That's what you really need, like, as years are developing. Because I know I don't always have it all together, and we all have emotions. So it's like, especially when you're younger, having somebody who's an adult who may have been through similar things as you, who can just listen and give you the best advice and not try to change it into a lecture or try to make it seem like they're badgering you or trying to lecture you as if they know more than you, but validate how you feel in a respectable and intelligent way. I feel that would help kids a lot, especially when it comes to their mental health.
Absolutely. I think it's really important that youth and adults are able to have a constructive dialogue. And when you prove yourself to be a caring adult and that you genuinely care about youth and their feelings and what they're going through, you're able to truly make an impact. Now, we've talked a lot about some of the issues and problems going on in Rochester, but I want to switch it up a little bit and talk more so about the broader vision of things. When you think about the future of Rochester, what gives you hope? So, Cash, I want you to jump in for this one. So, when you think about your future, what gets you excited and hopeful about what young people can do in our community?
Um, oh, hold on, something blocked my screen. Yeah. Um, what gets me excited? What gives me hope? I feel me knowing my peers and knowing how we navigate and how we act, not the lack, the amount of commitment they have. Like once they put their minds to something, we're gonna get it done. It don't matter. And I've seen that maybe not in the most positive way, in the most positive forms, but hey, if we want to do this, if we got to get to point B and we at A, we're gonna get there. It don't matter. Nobody's stopping us. So I love that. Like we're really driven. We really have that motivation, even if you're against me. Everybody, the whole world could be against my whole little crew. We still gonna get it done. Y'all just added fuel to the fire. It's just making us want to do it even more, whether you're standing with me or against me. That's what I really love about the youth. That's what I like. Even we may see it in a few bad ways, we may see it in the not best ways, but it's showing that we have that drive, we have that motivation. We're very smart, very intelligent, but it's just we use it for the wrong things. And I feel like we need older mentors like this program, something like this, or something like TE to kind of guide us on the right way and show us like, hey, you're very smart, you're very intelligent, but that's not what you're supposed to do. That's not how we're supposed to do things. Um,
Mhm. I think it's really important, and I love how you highlighted the resiliency of the youth. Hazel, I want you to jump in on this too. I know you're graduating this year, so where do you see yourself in the next 10 years, and where do you see Rochester going in the next 10 years?
Okay, first, in the next 10 years, I hope to be in my law program. I want to be a CEO of several Fortune 500 companies and hopefully a Supreme Court justice in my lifetime. But when I think about Rochester, when I first think about Rochester as a person who moved around a lot but always ends up back home, it's very exciting and exhilarating to see all the history that we have in our own backyard, about all the things that we've built, all the things that we've created just here. So when I think about the future, it just makes me excited to see where we're going. Because while we always focus on like the kid children, the drugs, all this, that, and the third, there's so much more going on behind the scenes or that's being overlooked because of the
Mhm.
negativity that we often forget. Like there's really good kids. There's so much positivity. There's so much to smile about. I go to school on the west side. They're like, oh, it's so dangerous. Oh, you go to Wilson, all this and the third. But when you come here every day and you spend a full day with my peers and just interacting with them, it's so much motivation, creativity, and so much a familial feeling, like deeper connections. By being a full IB student, kids I would probably never talk to if we weren't in these same classes, we develop such a deep connection and bond that if you're going through something, we're going through something. You need help, I got you. You want us to show up and support you? We got you. The feeling of community is just so strong. So I'm excited to see our future.
So thank you so much for sharing. Trevor, I'm gonna have you jump in on this one too. When you think about Rochester, what gives you hope?
So I don't know if you could see, but there's a because I'm at an R center right now, but the
Oh,
couple of
okay.
the yeah, I'm sorry, but a couple of the kids are like circling around, and well, I mean, there's my answer. It's the youth. The youth gives me hope because, like Isaiah said, one of my biggest things is potential, and as a senior, at World of Inquiry School, we hold true to these things called the Griffin values. It's
Mhm.
compassion, integrity, tenacity, self-discipline, and inquiry. So, I mean, having an inquiring mind and self-discipline, they're very important skills like self-control, knowing when to do things, when not to do things, and when to explore. Compassion and caring for each other. I mean, that's a big and important factor. Showing integrity is also something that I believe if the youth know how to do that, they can not only be honest with each other, but honest with themselves. That they can that they know that if this is in my realm of possibility, I can achieve it. And then tenacity, just not giving up. You can't when you have a goal in mind, you can't give that up. And I mean, like one of well, like when Isaiah was, I believe he was quoting Romans 8:28. All things work out for the good for those that love God. I mean, it's everything in the end works out for the good. I mean, when you look at history too, there are periods of turmoil and struggle, but eventually there will be times for peace and like times for success and growth. And for the youth to do that, you can go ahead and walk. They can see you now. But but uh the youth are the most important factor. They're going to carry on our legacy even when as we leave high school and get ready to go out into the world to do whatever we wish to do. They're going to be learning and and they should be nurtured. And my hope is that because I know that me going to Roberts Wesleyan, I'm studying to be a minister and computer network architect. I'm
Awesome.
going to come back to the community to help the youth because it's one thing to be successful and go on. It's another thing to come back and help the people that you were around.
Absolutely. Now, piggybacking off of that, all of you are amazing leaders in our community and are doing great things to have an impact at such a young age. So, what would you say to a friend or someone who's younger who wants to help and get involved but isn't sure where to start? Lacey, I know you're the president of YVOV. So, what would you say to a friend or someone who wants to get involved?
Sorry. Things that I would say to peers getting involved in, these are some of the things I have said. I've just had to tell them, like, you just have to put yourself out there because I can say I didn't join by just being to myself, expecting somebody to come up to me and say, oh, hey, I think you'd be great for this and this. You have to put yourself out there, but you not only have to put yourself out there, you have to be intentional with how you do it. You have to properly network with the right people, but you also have to have resilience, determination, and qualities to show yourself to be a leader because you can't just be put in these types of positions and just take them for granted and then just sit and float under the radar and expect to climb your way to the top. You have to be able to put in the hard work. You have to be able to make certain sacrifices. Because I know, like, even becoming president, like, I almost had to give up my own sport for the fact that I knew that I wanted to continue my work in the community. Like, there are certain sacrifices that you have to be willing to make. There are hard decisions, and there's a lot of responsibility, integrity, and self-blame that you get when you are put in these leadership roles. And if you can't take certain things, if you can't take the criticism, if you can't take the responsibility, if you can't take how hard it's going to be, you have to be able to develop and keep developing yourself as a person, because when you become a leader in these positions, eyes are going to be on you. And if
Mhm.
something goes wrong, no matter what it is, it's going to fall back on you. And you have to be able to accept that, and you have to have thick skin working, especially when it comes to youth work and any other leadership. So just being able to keep pushing, not allow for things to get you down, not letting major setbacks set you back is going, it just helps a lot more in the future as you continue. And the more that people can see that you are resilient and that you're not going to allow for setbacks to push you back, the more they're going to be able to trust you and your skills and your abilities to be able to continuously keep you in these leadership roles as you go on.
That was so greatly said, Lacey. I really appreciate that. Now it's getting a little bit close to wrap up time. So before we wrap things up, I want to open the floor up to all of you for any final words or any thoughts that you would like to share. Hazel, we'll start with you. Any final words?
Lacey, listen, I got to give you a hand clap for president to president, youth to youth. What you said was extremely beautiful and about putting yourself out there. I can say, originally I was a timid kid, even though I talk so much now, I can't believe it myself, but I was quiet and I didn't like to talk. Now I'm okay with putting myself out there. And to like the younger not younger generation, but the more youth who are shy, timid, and afraid, it's okay to hear no. It's okay to speak up. Just know within yourself that you're trying and you know what you're working for. You have to set your own goals before you can worry about anything else, because a lot of the time people think it's you versus everyone else. It's actually you versus you at the end of the day, because if you don't, I want to say, advocate for yourself, put yourself first. It might sound a little selfish, but you got to start with yourself and then work for other people, if that makes sense.
No, that was great. That was awesome. Serenity, I want to have you jump in on this. Um, what are some thoughts that you would like to share about the youth and adults?
I really just feel like it really, what would help a lot is being inclusive. Like a lot of adults like just want to push kids out, or like they say that they want to help, but then they don't give them the resources to help. They just just talking without like showing action. So I feel like really with inclusivity, it would really help a lot with getting our youth out there. With the ones that are shy, they're seeing someone else with a voice. It would help a lot with women forming their own voice and to show that, oh yeah, you could do it, I could do it too. And I also wanted to say, like, I feel like everybody did a really good job. Like a lot of the stuff that like I was thinking about, I couldn't really explain, and everybody did a real good job with like reading my mind and explaining it real good without me having to say it. So
Yeah, so you all are the experts when it comes to youth. Nobody can say it better than you all. So pretty much everything that you said was in those surveys that we put. You all are on the same page. You all want the same thing, and you all are asking for our adults to dive in and give an impact and help us. Cash, I want you to jump in as well. What would you say to someone who wants to jump in and get involved with youth work?
What would I say? Every time I unmute my mic, something pops up and blocks. Okay. What would I say? I would just say that no matter where you go, if you want to get involved with youth work, being a youth, your coworkers, soon to be friends, are going to be there for you. The adults there are adults that you can trust, that are going to be there consistently. That's one thing I really love about TE. Like my I don't know what to, my youth coordinators, that's what they call my youth coordinators. There are ones that are there for me. They'll call on weekends to check on like us physically, our mental health, just to see how everything's going. When we are in group, we all talk. Like all of my coworkers, we all have our peer-to-peer contact. We all like how Hazel just said to Lacey, oh, like big ups to you. Like we all do that. We all have our own kind of special bond. And I feel like it helps everyone grow together. So even when we have a new person or we're encouraging new people that we just meet every day walking in, it's like you're coming into a family with open arms. No one's gonna judge you because we all got the same goal. We're all doing the same thing. So why would you be an odd one out? We're all gonna like love and come together. That's one thing I really do like about youth work because it's youth with the same goals, same ambitions. Like no one just seems crazy for saying something. It's something we're all thinking. So.
Trevor, what about you? What would you tell someone who wants to get involved?
One, I'd say like it's never too late. And one of the things that I would say to someone who wants to get involved is to just take take your time and sit down and think collectively. When you do research, right? And when we think of all the things that we go through and we may share about and we may think not everybody's situation is the same. However, we can all collectively realize that if there, since that there's these panels and these talks and these issues that exist, we all know that there's a problem. And we're all aware of it because it's easy to point out a problem. It's hard to find people that want to make the solution so that the problem could be mitigated, if not just completely out of the picture. Um, it's, I would say to them that the most important thing you can do is step up because if not you, then who? Like when you think of the civil rights movement, it was an era where anybody could be a leader. And then post civil rights, when people gained those rights, but there still were those issues, they were lost because after the assassination of Dr. King and Malcolm X and all of these other leaders passing away, Rosa Parks passing, it's kind of like, where do we go from there? And that's when, and the simplest solution was the youth. That's what Dr. King was really concerned about. He was afraid that he was leading his people to into a burning building, as he said as in one of his final speeches. But the real solution was going forward with the youth, investing into the youth. So to anyone that I have actually talked to, I'm just telling them it's time for you to step up, use your resources. Anything is possible. This building, I mean, not this building, this country is founded on stepping up. The founding fathers weren't old when they founded the country. They didn't fight in the war, the Revolutionary War, when they were old men. They were fighting in their late teens to early 20s. We as youth have power to, if the founding fathers can make a country, we can step up to solve these solve these problems.
Thank you so much for that, Trevor. And now, Isaiah, any final thoughts for you, and what are some ways that youth can get involved, and youth and adults get involved?
I just want to say, first of all, to all the panelists, I agree with what everybody said and how they delivered it. And I'll say for young people who wants to get involved is one, to understand how important your voice is. Two, to understand that you have an opportunity to use your voice to not only affect your current generation, but the next generation after. And it's not easy to think about when you're 19 years old and you're 18 and you're 15, but it shows purpose and it shows how you can really accomplish effective work for not just yourself, but the generations that follow. But in that, to tell you and your community's truth, just to tell your truth. And I think a lot of times people are afraid to do that, and understandably so, because you don't know the pushback that you're going to get. But when you do get pushback, you knew that you stood on top of what was truthful to yourself and to your community. And you'll get hate. You'll get people. I sit on the school board, the Rochester Board of Education, Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got like four articles out there about me on the youngins aren't ready and the young guns shouldn't be up here. But I know that I'm in a place where I'm accomplishing a purpose. And so when I see those articles and when I see those things, I don't got to worry about it because I know when I'm in this place, I'm telling my truth with integrity and I'm advocating for a generation. And you might be 80 years old behind the keyboard writing these articles about me. But I know that while I'm out here speaking to these young people, encouraging these young people, that I am not only affecting and possibly encouraging this current generation, but the future generations. And one thing that I'm excited about is for the young people and we all are part of the solution, but to get the young people to understand and to focus in their passion, their resilience, the understanding that they have to really advocate for effective change. And I can't wait to see young people on in these seats, in these political seats. I can't wait to see young people on city council, young people on school board, young people on Monroe County legislature. When I told somebody not too long ago, they were like, "You're not worried somebody gonna break your record at 19 years old?" I said, "If somebody doesn't break my record, I haven't done my job right." And so I cannot wait to see our young people really get into these spaces and make innovative changes, because right now we're in a time where we need innovative changes because we have consistently went through this process of going through old policies, old procedures, old practices from 1960, 1980, not understanding that we are dealing with a new generation with new problems, with new things that they have to experience. And we're not following behind with policy, with legislation, with support, and being innovative in those areas. And I believe that it's young people that will do that. But we need more young people on these seats. So if anybody wants to run for any office, you can email me. We can talk this out, and I'll let you know the whole in and outs. It's another full-time job, but if you're down for it, then we can talk. But truly, that's just a joke. But truly, standing on your truth, advocating, understand that there's a purpose in this calling, and that this is not just for this current generation, but when you're advocating, like the panelists are today, you are not only affecting your generation but future generations.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for sharing your stories, your thoughts, and ideas. I know they recently um, opened this up for questions and answers. So we have a couple of questions that were sent our way. One of the questions that we have is, how do you all encourage other youth to keep the positive momentum going when they are experiencing personal setbacks, mental health, or other traumas? So, Lacey, could you start us off with this one? I'll read it again. How do you all encourage other youth to keep the positive momentum going when they are experiencing personal setbacks, mental health, and other traumas?
Um, I inspire younger kids to keep their positive mindsets by just keep pushing forward, but also keep their support systems. Like, it doesn't always have to be an adult. Like, I have my closest two friends to me, and they're two of the people who I can say have been there for me for a long time through a lot of stuff. And the more you have people who understand your traumas, like who have gone through things you've gone through, who continuously push you, like, you need people who are going to push you, who are not going to let you be stagnant, who are not going to let you just fly with being comfortable. The more you have people around you who can push you to do better, who keep themselves doing better, the more it keeps you in a positive light, because you don't want to be that person around who's doing less and everybody else is pushing forward. So you're going to keep trying. The more you see others around you trying in that positive light, like getting accepted to college, getting another job, pushing to do more in government, that the more you do that, the more it's okay, maybe I should start doing things in my own respective field. Like, determination is very contagious, and the more you're around it, the more it's going to push you to be yourself, and it's going to push you to success, but also that positivity to where you don't feel that you're falling behind those around you.
Oh, I definitely agree with you. I know when I shared this panel to some of my friends, so I'm a little bit younger too. I haven't even reached 30 yet. So when I shared this panel, some of my friends were like reaching out and like, "Oh, I want to get involved. This is awesome. What are you doing?" So I definitely agree. Cash, can you also chime in on how to keep youth positive when they're experiencing certain setbacks and trauma?
Um, Personally, I try to stay positive myself, one, and then when we're here in a workspace, I feel like as I forgot her name, I think her name started with L. As she said, not positivity. Productivity is very contagious. Like all of that is very contagious. When you see one person working and we're all together, I feel like it all just motivates us to keep going. Even if you can't give 100 that day, you're really drained. You're still trying, and I feel like that's what really matters. That will count. And also, sometimes it's not always just physically. Sometimes it's not always all about work. Sometimes it's about like how you're doing mentally, what's going on. Like it might be something at home or something that happened at school. Sometimes I feel like my peers and my friends, sometimes they just need to be heard, not just by an adult, because adults can see where we're coming from. They can offer advice because they've been there, they've done that, they don't live longer. But I feel like it's a little better coming from peer to peer, knowing, hey, we're in the same grade, same class, same school. I know exactly how you feel. I know exactly what's going on. And I feel like that's what makes it a little better. That's what makes it a little stronger. And just sometimes like people are having a bad day. They just need a hug. They just need a second to sit back, relax, and breathe, you know? So
Absolutely. Another question that just came through was, what are your thoughts on youth relationships with the police? What can be done to bridge the gaps between police officers and the community? Hazel, would you like to take this one?
I can. So we did a lot of work with the city too as RCSD, Student Leadership Congress and stuff of that nature. I feel as if the police and the people get a bad rep for like they don't protect us, they don't do all this, that, and the third. But certain police officers who just randomly visit the schools or like they're pretty chill once you talk to them. I feel like that we need to create a type of connection where they don't show up with their guns and their badges. They come in jeans, a nice khaki shirt, or a polo shirt, and just interact with us like human beings. Don't treat us like it's your job to just look down on us, because I want someone who looks like me. I've had experiences where little brown girls are like, "You're so awesome," and that makes me feel good because there's not many people in these positions who look like me. There's starting to be a change, but like Trevor said, if not you, then who? So just creating a relationship, let them come in and talk to us as normal people, not you're an authoritative figure. You're just like me too. Like you understand where I'm coming from. You've been in the same situations that I've been in. Like remind me that you're human.
Trevor, would you like to jump in on this one too?
Absolutely. And like Hazel said, that humanity part is a big factor. And this is recently too. This has a had a good resolve, but the situation that happened was not so much. So one of our graduates of the Talented 10th program um was had a poor encounter with the police, I shall say. And this was after we received training by Officer Chief Stith, um, how to handle a police stop as a I like to use the term now African instead of African American because of the work we've done in the Talented 10th and us coming back from Ghana and learning more about our culture. Uh, as Africans, we're told to handle police encounters differently, and especially as teens. And to say the least, the graduate Josh Chester, the encounter with the police got really ugly and all over the fact that the car's registration, and it was his brother or his older brother first, he moved the car from the street and backed it to his own driveway. And I guess the car's registration wasn't up to date, but it wasn't even that long. But the initial officer, um questioned them heavily, and they were handling the situation as they were instructed by Officer Chief Stiff, but obviously they could tell that they were heated until another car, cop car, rolled up and the boys faced police brutality. Um, um, and they did have to appear in court, and we did have to uh paid for an attorney, the case got dismissed as they saw that there was no wrong on the boy's part. But it's serious that this is a real issue, even ironically after not even a week after we got received the training on how to handle and a police encounter, and one of the cops um that was there was actually on my street for an altercation that was happening, and he was heated. And they need to remember that it's not just we need to remember they're human, they also need to remember we're human. And when we have these unalienable rights as the Constitution states, we have the right to tell them that, hey, these are my rights. If I'm not disobeying the law, you have the right to tell me that why you're here, what you're doing, which they didn't tell them why they were there. They were just asking questions. And there were so many things that violated their rights, that violated the Fourth and I believe the Sixth Amendment. Um, it was a very tough situation, but that ended well, but it could have gotten really ugly fast. But I think that that bridge between police and youth it needs to be established, and there needs to be more representation, especially in the RPD.
Thank you so much for sharing that experience with us, Trevor. We did receive another question, so I want to answer it really quick because we got to wrap up. In one word, what is one change you what is one change you need? It's worded a little weird. Let's start with you, Serenity.
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
So, in one word, what is one change youth in Rochester need?
Give me 1 second. I had it and then it disappeared.
So, if you had a magic wand and all the resources in the world, what is one thing that you would change or put into place?
I feel like I would change the way that people handle our mental health. They like sometimes like it'll be the littlest thing that we might have a reaction to, and they might overplay it or overreact, and then they like switch it up, and then it instead of helping, it kind of makes it worse, and then leading to like bad what's the word? Like just leading to like bad things that's not gonna help. And so I really feel just like more it was mentioned before, more resources to where we could get that help that we need to be able to not even just express what's going on, but how to help it, and so they don't have to go to go through that problem again, and use the information that they got to help their peers and stuff.
Ash, would you like to jump in on this one as well? If you had a magic wand and all the resources in the world, what is one change that you would make?
For the youth, one change I would make is it's not necessarily to the youth, but I feel like it's more to the adults for them to be able to listen and take accountability, because there is certain things that the youth go through that it's not their fault. We're too young to be dealing with this. It's y'all fault, but y'all blamed it on us because we the kids and we being too grown. This and the third. Not only taking accountability, but when we bring up issues and problems, being able to understand, digest the problem, and then act on it. Like, it's falling on deaf ears. I just told you 3 times and there's nothing happening. Nothing's being done. I'm just repeating myself. And that's how the youth turn violent. And that violence may trigger their mental health, and it trickles down. But if you're able to listen and act on what I'm if you're able to listen and act on what I'm telling you, then maybe we can move forward and something could actually change.
Thank you all so much once again for sharing your thoughts and your stories. We're gonna go ahead and wrap things up, but I want to just make sure that I give you all of your flowers because you all are doing amazing work and are committed to making changes in Rochester. So please keep using your voices and showcasing all of your strengths, your creativities, and your passions. We always say kids are the future, but no, kids are now, they're the present and the future. So once again, thank you all and thank everybody for tuning in to our youth panel. I'm gonna pass things over to Mr. Underwood. Bye.
Thank you, and don't leave yet, young people. Please don't leave. Uh, please don't leave, because I think once again, my expectation was so high for you all, and y'all knocked it the ball so far at the park. I don't think the ball is dropped yet. So thank you in so many ways, and there've been a lot of seeds that you all have planted today that I know are going to germinate. I know that for a fact. I don't even think. I know. So from the bottom of my heart, and I'm on behalf of all of us here at Action for a Better Community, thank you. Thank you. And Shamara, boss lady, excellent job facilitating such an amazing group of outstanding human beings. Let me call them that. I didn't want to call them youth no more, but just human beings that I have a lot to say, and I'll reserve a lot of it for when I speak to you all soon. Let's put it that way. So again, Asante Sana, thank you very much. You will hear from us real soon. There's a whole list of things that you all said that I got like 3 pages of notes that I have to go follow up on. But thank you for being here today to really uh, help close out a really impactful first day of ABC's conference.